Welcome to my new channel, Daily Dose of Doom and Gloom. This channel is going to be about all the horrible news that's coming in every day, horrible technology that's probably going to ruin society eventually, and probably a couple conspiracies here and there, and generally just basic doom and gloom. Every morning I'll wake up, watch the news like I do every day, think about how horrible things are going, and then throw a video together, hopefully. But yeah, I have other channels, and maybe I'll link to those other channels once this one starts taking off, but I don't want the two channels to be connected right now. But I live out in the woods in a cabin, far, far away from everybody else. And there's a lot of things I want to talk about. A lot of things on my mind, especially with how crazy things have been getting lately. Things are on my mind, you know. So here we are on our first real video. And the first real video today is going to be about America's lack of readiness when it comes to nuclear weapons. And I'm not talking about the government. The government's pretty on point with those things. They've got, you know, ICBMs, all kinds of things on the subs, everything we need as far as fighting the war. I think the government is pretty much got that situated. But what they haven't done is talked to the citizens about it. Like, nobody is getting ready for this. And I'm not saying that you need to live in complete, utter fear and, you know, and basically live a life of doom and gloom like I do. But you should be prepared, at least a little bit. And something that a lot of Americans don't understand is, like, being prepared isn't being crazy. Being prepared is good for the government. If you're pro-government, which I can't necessarily say I am, but if you are pro-government, which most of the people who tell me that they don't need to prepare because the government's going to take care of them, well, the government wants you to be prepared. Like, every citizen that's prepared won't be a pressure on the system. You know, like, if something happens and there's no food at the grocery stores, if you have food put away at your house, you'll just go home, hunker down, and eat that food. But if you don't have any food, then you're going to have to go to the bread lines, wherever those are, and ask the government for a handout. Put your hand out for the government, all right? And if you want to be a good citizen and a good patriot, a good American citizen, you should have enough supplies for 3 to 6 months. So if things get really bad, you're not a liability on the system. You know, you are an asset and not a liability. So that's really where we're at on that. And it's really simple. Like, you get a 5-gallon bucket, you get some Mylar bags, and you go and buy some dry food, beans and rice, which rice is going up already. Like, India's already cut America off on a lot of the rice supply. China has cut us off on a lot of the rice supply. Obviously, you can do pasta too. I used to eat lots of pasta growing up, but now it messes up my stomach. But the rice doesn't, so I eat a lot of rice, and I store a lot of rice, which is something every American should do. And water, you need to have access to water. Like, I have friends who live in California, and they don't keep 10 gallons of water in one of the closets in their apartment, which doesn't make any sense because they're like 200 miles from the closest fresh water in LA County, you know? It just doesn't make sense. Like, you think you would want at least 50 days worth of water. I would think 50 gallons at the minimum is what I would want if I lived in LA County, which I used to live in LA County. I spent a long time living in San Diego and right outside of LA, and you know, I used to love California, but that's another video. We'll talk about California and how it completely fell apart. But if I lived in California right now, I would definitely have a 5-gallon bucket full of rice and 50 gallons of water in one of my closets. And I'm trying to convince my best friend who lives out there to do that, but it's very hard to convince people to do stuff like this, even though everything's so crazy right now. We just went through a huge pandemic, and now we're pretty much at the beginning stages of a world war, and it's still really hard to convince people to do these things. So yeah, this is basically what the channel's going to be. It's going to be me talking about current events and, you know, worldwide and local news. And yeah, it's probably going to be me stressing everybody out because I'm pretty paranoid about things, especially right now. It feels like everything is just falling apart. And for some reason, when I talk to my friends and family, they just don't seem to care or understand or don't want to put the time into it, or they're just too stressed out by the jobs that they have. So they just don't want to put any train of thought, or any of their brain power towards it, which I think is crazy. To prepare is really easy, and it can start with just one bag of rice every single time you go to the store. So yeah, for my first video, I want to say welcome to the channel and thank you for joining me. And please go out to the grocery store while things are still cool and prep some stuff, some dry food, pasta and rice and some canned sauce, anything that's high in acidic, anything that's highly acidic, like tomato sauce and stuff like that, will have a long shelf life. It can probably stay canned for 30 years, but definitely have a couple year shelf life. And if you're rotating things out, you know, it should be pretty easy. And you should be able to get a nice little stash. Things like almonds and nuts and stuff like that have high fat, that's definitely a great thing to store, but you have to be cycling those out. Those things won't last multiple years, you know. If you get a year's worth of almonds, you got to eat them, which is what I do. I'll keep like 6 months worth in a bucket and then eat a bucket 6 months worth. And then when that's out, I'll fill that up and then move on to the next bucket. So you got to make a plan and have a system for rotating things out, but it's very important that you start prepping. And yeah, there's some great channels out there. City Prepper, Canadian Prepper. Canadian Prepper is probably one of my favorite channels. I've been following Nate for years and years and years, and I really like his stuff. My first video of his ever was when he first introduced his bug out roll, which is like his own product. But go check out Canadian Prepper if you are not subscribed to him. But yeah, daily dose of doom and gloom. Hopefully it doesn't get too gloomy here. I'll see you guys in the next